Welcome to the last and final segment of the show, and this is Financial Markets. My name is Anthony, your host. Now, yesterday's trading on the Nairobi Stock Exchange ended with 50 participants who were able to trade shares on the market, and we had about 27 losers on the market and 16 gainers close the market trading day. Olympia Capital Holdings led the gainers at a 7.36% gain and closed the day with a price of 2.77 Kenyan shillings per share. He was followed by Flame Tree, actually Diamond Trust Bank of Kenya at 5.47%, and Flame Tree Group Holdings who came in at a 4.96% gain, whereas Uchumi Supermarket came in as in its second day of gaining at a 4.35% gain. On the losing side, we had Centum Investments. We had Crown Paints Kenya, who came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 10% to losing to over 39.15 Kenyan shillings. TPS East Africa, Serena at a 9.76% decline also came out as a bottom loser, and as well as Sanlam Kenya and Ever Ready East Africa. As usual, Safaricom also came out as the top mover and recorded about 5.35 million shares that were traded, and NCBA Group at a 1.61 million shares that were traded on yesterday's trading day. Kenya Power and Lighting Company at a 1.24 million shares also came in as a top mover, and as well as I&M Holdings. Regarding the performance of the NSE market indices, the benchmark index, that is the all share index, went up because of the much highly participated in markets for the day, as well as because of the gainers coming in at 17 with some of the big boys such as the Olympia Capital Holdings. The all share index went up by 1.92 points, and that's a 1.44% points increase, closing the day with a 134.96 points, representing a 1-week loss of about 3.48% and a 4-week loss of 5.99%, whereas an overall year-to-date loss of 18.92%. Other remarkable indices that performed well were the NSE 20, but not so well after losing about negative 2.9%. And the NSE 20 also lost 2.15% on its weekly performance and 8.07% on its year-to-date performance, while the NSE 25 performed a little slightly much better at a 0.9% gain and a 3.31% weekly decline and 14.78% in terms of year-to-date performance. The Nairobi Stock Exchange market capitalization currently is at 2.1 trillion Kenyan shillings. And yesterday we had a total of about 11,380,400 shares that were traded on the Nairobi Stock Exchange in about 1,205 deals. And when you look at the market value yesterday, it was at 275 million Kenyan shillings that were traded compared with the previous day. This was a slight improvement, a little bit of improvement, with an 18% decline still in the volumes and turnover, as well as 10% improvement in the deals. The current market capitalization of the Nairobi market is 2.1 trillion Ugandan shillings and Kenyan shillings rather on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. When you look at the exchange here, Olympia Capital leading the gainers came in after a very long time after not being a gainer, but still we highly anticipate much better performance in the periods to come. because we have, of course, come to the end of the period of elections, which were the major drawback for the exchange. Of course, most experts say this was the reason most investors were pulling out because of uncertainties surrounding the election, and what people expected to be a violent election actually turned out to be a very much peaceful election and transition of power. And so after this election trauma, we are hoping that we will have even a much better market activity and have more people trading, and also increase issuances. Of course, here in Uganda, we are looking at new issuance of stock as well, but we are hoping even more issuances will come on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Now, Olympia Capital Holdings was the biggest trader, the biggest gainer yesterday, is a Kenyan-based holding firm, and its main investments are in companies dealing in the manufacture and sale of products used in the construction industry, such as floor tiles, adhesives, UPVC windows and door frames, chemical cleaning chemicals, as well as fire prevention equipment and water pumps as well. The company is currently the 61st most valuable stock out of the 65 companies that are listed, with a total capitalization of just 111 million Kenyan shillings, which is about 0.00053% of the Nairobi Stock Exchange equity market. Yesterday they went up by about 0.23 Kenyan shillings, actually to a price of 3 Kenyan shillings per share, an 8.3% increase in the price there that was registered. The opening price was 2.94 and the closing price was 3 shillings, which was actually the highest price for the day. The traded volumes were just 2,900, and the shares outstanding are currently at 40 million shares on the Olympia Capital Firm there on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Now, the Nairobi Stock Exchange, when you look at this company, Olympia, they began the year with the price of 2 shillings and have since gained a 38.5%, ranking them the first on the Nairobi Stock Exchange in terms of year-to-date performance. We are talking about Olympia Capital Holdings. This company is specialized in the manufacture and sale of construction products, and this company we are seeing is on a gain currently, and seriously the first company in terms of year-to-date performance. Now, besides this, shareholders can be highly optimistic of Olympia Capital Holdings because it has accrued 20% over the 4-week period, which is the second best on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Olympia Capital Holdings, however, is the 42nd most traded stock out of the 65 companies that are listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Now, those are two contradicting statements there. Very good year-to-date performance, a very good monthly performance, coming in the second position. But when you come to the traded volumes, they still have some more work to do. They are the 42nd most traded on stock within the last 3 or so months. And Olympia Capital Holdings has traded a total volume of about 218,900 shares within this period, with an average of 3,475 traded shares per session, and a volume high of 95,300 shares, which was achieved on the 30th of August for the same period we are talking about here. And this is still a challenge that many investors need to address. Don't get so excited about the price before you check the volumes, because you must be sure of liquidity as well as activity on the market. If stock is not active, even if it's doing so well like you're seeing Olympia Capital, for bigger investors, this might not be a good option for you to invest in. You might buy a big volume, maybe 1 million shares, and you get stuck with those shares because literally there's no one who is willing to buy those shares. And so that is something I also want to always point out. Don't get so much excited that, hey, Olympia Capital is doing so good, and you forget to check the activity. Activity is as important as the price. If at all a certain company is doing very well but is not active, it is still a problem. And a humble reminder for those of you who are watching, Altex East Africa is a company that is able to provide for you stocks and equities, as well as exchange traded funds and bonds across East Africa. You can now use your mobile phone by dialing *292# or using your MTN line if you're an MTN subscriber, and you will have access to all the securities across East Africa. They are doing this to make the markets more accessible and to enable you and I be able to invest our little savings that we get from our daily jobs, so that we can make money out of our savings. Altex East Africa, in conjunction with Altex Clearing, are saying, my money, my future, do something new. That's just something I wanted to remind you about. Now, Diamond Trust Bank also came in as a big boy yesterday on the Nairobi Stock Exchange after gaining yesterday by about, they gained some value here on their price to earnings ratio to about 3.79, and their earnings per share grew to 13.98 Kenyan shillings per share, whereas their shares outstanding currently are at 280 million. They have a market capitalization of over 14.8 billion Kenyan shillings, and they are the 17th most valuable company out of the 65 listed companies on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Now, Diamond Trust Bank, when you look at their daily gain yesterday, they gained about 5.5% from their previous day of trading. However, they began the year with a price of 59.5 and have lost a 10.9% value on their stock since the beginning of the year. When you look at their activity, they are the 19th most traded on stock, meaning they have a very active stock. Now, this is a stock that you want to buy. If it's very active, even if, yes, based on the year-to-date performance, we may, close an eye here or there, but activity, we want active stocks because active stocks give you hope for the future. They give you, you know that at least something will change, definitely. Maybe the price will go up, maybe it will go down, but at least it will change. But a stock that is not moving at all for the first month, second month, third month, and you're seeing the same pricing, unless you're getting in relief for the dividends, I wouldn't advise you to buy some of that stock. But Diamond Trust Bank, definitely in Kenya, has done well, and within those 3 months, it has traded about a total volume of 2.98 million shares that are valued at about 1.27 million. That are valued. Definitely, we have about 1.27 million Kenyan shillings, and they have an average of about 47,200 shares that are traded on every single day at the Nairobi Stock Exchange there. Diamond Trust Bank, as you can see, has several competitors on the stock exchange, including NCBA Group, who is on a year-to-date gain of 23%, still much better there with the price of 31 shillings. You have Stanbic Holdings Limited at a 12% gain. Stanbic Holdings is also a very good financial institution. And then Standard Chartered Bank Kenya, it also has a 7.8% gain. And then you have Absa New Gold ETF, an exchange traded fund there, at a 5.05% gain on their year-to-date. The Absa Bank of Kenya PLC at 2.11% decline, and so many others. Well, when you compare with other banks, still Diamond Trust is one of the companies doing very well on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, and one you can consider investing in on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Let's cross over to Uchumi. Uchumi has also, there's something about Uchumi right these days on Nairobi Stock Exchange, and would like to know some of what it does here. Uchumi is a supermarket engaged in the retail supermarkets operations. It distributes bakery, wines, meat, fish, vegetables, and so many other goods. The company has over a network of 15 branches locally in Kenya and several others abroad. The company is owned by Uchumi Supermarkets Uganda and Kasarani Mall Limited. Now, Uchumi is currently the 62nd most valuable company on the stock exchange, with a total of 87.6 million market capitalization value. And it trades at 0.24 shillings currently. Very affordable stock there on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. And when you look at their gain, yesterday they gained about 4.3%. However, they are the 16th most traded stock. Now, this is very interesting, and I'm always interested in the trades because they give you liquidity and they assure you that you can find buyers whenever you need some. On the Nairobi Securities Exchange, within the last 3 months, they have traded about 3.71 million shares and an average of about 948 shares. So you can see a very affordable stock, very active. So for short-term investors, this would be a good way to go. It would also be a good idea for you to buy a very huge volume because they definitely have some affordable stock here on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And that is it from the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Remember, you can access this stock via some stockbrokers here in Uganda. In particular, you have Stanbic Bank Uganda, Stanbic Bank Group, Standard Bank Group Securities, SBG. You also have Crested Capital, who are also engaged in the same business in Kenya. You have Diane Blair and so many others that can actually get you stock here in Nairobi. When things go wrong in Uganda, you run to Nairobi. That is diversification, and it's one of the things that you can do to avert the risk that comes in investment within the financial markets. One of the challenges we need to address in East Africa, especially in our financial markets, is diversification. Diversification not only for our investment portfolios, but our markets need to be diversified. The products, I mean, you're looking at things like derivatives, exchange traded funds, that's EFTs and NFTs, and so many other things, that options, futures. These things help the markets to grow. Much as, of course, we need to do publicity of the capital markets, we need to inform the public about what's happening in the capital markets, but we also need to not to forget that there are already people who are in the market and are kind of dormant. They're kind of redundant. They need something new. They need new products that are tailored for the current nature of the economy. Of course, economies are struggling around the world, and so many people personally are struggling with their finances. But regardless, people need to invest. So if our exchanges could think of diversified products, and I want to point out Altex because they have done a good job when it comes to diversifying, trying to come up with new products, trying to see that companies are actually, the markets are as accessible, as much accessible as possible, and so many other things, that innovations that we need within the sector. And so speaking on that point, I stand firm and say we must diversify our portfolios, but also our products if we are to thrive in the capital markets of today. Thank you very much for watching Smart 24 TV. I'll catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. My name is Anthony. Please visit our Twitter handle at Smart24 and leave a comment. And you can also get to our social media on YouTube and leave a comment. Smart24 is on channel 394 GoTV and channel 372 DSTV. And definitely we give you business content 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And definitely you should stay tuned. Up next is Mr. Fred Makubuya with UG Tukole. Later on, we shall have Skill Up and UG Jenkoleda, and you will definitely learn a lot from these and more. Stay with us. Goodbye for now. See you tomorrow.